Okay, so Gianna is an 8 year old girl and 5 months. That's her chronological age. And her scores for the VMI were she got a raw score of a 19, she got a standard score of 91, a scale score of an 8, and she's in the 27th percentile. So here's just a little glimpse at all of her work. Okay. And for the bot, she did drawing through the lines for the first item. She scored no errors at all. And for the curved one, she got 4 errors because she got out of the line 4 times with the transparency. For connecting the dots, it looked like it was correct without the transparency, but she got a 3 on this side, a 3 on this side, and a 3 on this side. And when I used the transparency, you could see that she got a little bit below on one of them, so this was a 1. So altogether, this scored as a 10. And she picked up the pencil once, so I had to subtract a point. Therefore, her score was a 9 for connecting the dots. And for folding a paper, she did it completely accurately. She folded correctly, so she scored a 12. And she was able to do 5 consistent jumping jacks. So for the clinical observations for prone extension, she got that in 35 seconds, which was the norm for an 8-year-old child. And her diatokinesia was good. She was able to do it quickly with no crazy movements, so she did that accurately. So some mistakes that I did throughout the assessments were for the bot, I noticed afterwards that I didn't demonstrate the jumping jacks first. So it was really supposed to be done in order for her to imitate me. But I knew that she'd be able to do them anyway because I asked her beforehand if she was able to. So that's probably why I didn't demonstrate. But for further use, I will demonstrate jumping jacks first. So for the clinical observations, I actually didn't have her imitate the diakinesia. She was doing it the same time as me, but I saw that she was able to do it fine, so that's why I continued on to the next thing. However, I did let her imitate it when I was doing it at the same time, so she was able to do that. So there was a couple of mistakes that I made for the VMI. So I actually turned the pages for her, and she's supposed to do this on her own to indicate when she's ready to move on to the next step, and I did it for her. I didn't actually have her use a pencil without an eraser because I didn't have one available to me. And at one point I told her to draw the object as exactly how it was seen because I noticed that she was analyzing the first 2 items and was trying to actually have the same exact 3D shape. So she was trying to make it like the same width and the same height. So I was like, make sure you copy exactly what the picture's showing. And then she got the hint. So she continued to do it correctly. Um, she slightly rotated the page and I didn't correct her because she did it on her own. So I figured I didn't need to tell her, like, oh, you make sure the paper's straight because she did it on her own. But I don't know if I was supposed to say that. So for the video, it's working on her gross motor skills since we're doing dancing. So she's getting those big movements. We're working on praxis because she was the one who taught me. So I had to imitate her throughout the entire thing. So I was actually working on praxis. She was working on ideation because she was coming up with the actual moves to plan out. So she had to think of, since she's used to doing this on her own, she had to think of certain moves that she wanted to use. We were most definitely working on sequencing. We had to come up with a pattern in our head, and I had to actually remember it. So did she, because she was teaching me. So she had to develop a sequence in her head, and then we had to keep remembering it and practicing in order to remember the entire routine. And we were working on motor planning because she had to, think of the move in her head of what she actually wanted to perform, as did I. And we had to do the exact same movement and plan it with each other. And we also worked on a little bit of endurance because I believe that dancing is most definitely an exercise. So I think we were working on endurance the entire time. So I did indicate in the actual activity how to grade it up and grade it down. I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but I wanted to see if she can come up with ways to actually make it easier and harder since she was the one teaching me. But we came up with, for grading it up, we would have me teach her and she would have to follow my moves instead of me teaching her because she's younger than me. So maybe that would have been more difficult for a child, especially with disabilities. Or for grading it up as well, we could have done more difficult, fast paced music. And for grading the activity down, we could have done a slower song and we could have had a couple of less steps. And maybe more like less gross motor movements, maybe just like using hand movements and keeping our legs and our lower extremities in the same position the entire time, or vice versa. Just moving one either upper or lower extremities, not both at the same time. So that could have been grading it down as well. But I think that's really everything that I messed up on. But in the future, I will complete these mistakes and learn from what I messed up on. So thanks.